A restaurant group handed me this purpose statement last year. The group was a 6-unit regional with solid food and 12% leadership turnover. Most operators would kill for those numbers. The purpose read, "We exist to bring people together around exceptional food and genuine hospitality while making a positive impact in the communities we serve." Read that again and then try to flip it. It would read something like, "We exist to keep people apart, serve mediocre food, and damage our communities." No brand would ever say that because the first statement isn't a position. It's just a description of being a restaurant. It cost them $11,000 and a 2-day offsite, yet it's basically meaningless and useless because it's empty. It's time to stop writing empty purpose statements and start writing the kind that will get absorbed, adopted, and beloved by the company and its audiences. Purpose statements that actually have impact. So what does impact actually mean here? To be clear, impact is not just a synonym for "we like it." Purposeful impact comes from one place: the connection between your archetypal driver and a real psychological tension within your patron group. This isn't an article of faith. It's behavioral science. And you need to know the difference or you bet the brand. The core finding tying it to behavioral science comes out of self-congruity theory, which goes back to Joseph Sergi in 1982. And the idea is simple. People prefer brands whose personality matches how they see themselves or how they'd like to see themselves. In 2012, Aguirre Rodriguez, Bosnak, and Sergi published a meta-analysis in the Journal of Business Research, pulling together more than 100 studies on this effect. They found it holds up with a correlation of 0.31. Now, for reference and understanding, the correlation scale runs from 0 to 1.0. 1.0 is full mind control. 0.7 is highly persuasive. And most basic marketing strategies land around 0.1. Self-congruity sits at 0.31. That's a massive reliable for any brand. It means that when you align with a patron's identity, you've captured nearly a third of the decision before they even walk through the door. Self-congruity explains a meaningful slice of why people choose you, not magic. That basics of competitive offerings still matter. Think product fit, uniqueness, price, convenience, etc. But self-congruity number is the powerful edge a brand needs in order to succeed. The same meta-analysis found something more useful for us, though. The effect gets stronger when the brand is judged as a whole person rather than as a product with features, and it gets weaker in low-involvement, purely utilitarian purchases. The archetype patron fit is the highest leverage work available. So why is purpose basically expensive furniture if you're not careful? Because purpose is not a financial lever on its own. In fact, if you treat it like one, you're just decorating your brand, and that does absolutely nothing. In 2019, Claudine Gartenberg, Andrea Pratt, and George Serafim published a landmark study in Organization Science that looked at the corporate purpose and financial performance. They moved past the empty mission statements on websites and analyzed data from roughly 500,000 employee surveys to find out what people actually believed about the companies for which they worked. Their headline result was brutal. Purpose, in isolation, showed zero relationship to financial performance. That number, 0, should be a wake-up call for everyone. You cannot afford to draft a statement and then put it on a plaque and expect profit to follow. It doesn't work that way. The only companies that actually outperform the market are the ones that successfully activate that purpose through operational clarity, top down, bottom up, and everywhere in between. And this isn't something that happens in the boardroom. It's driven by the people in the middle of your organization. It's the area director who runs 4 units and never gets invited to the offsite. It's the sous chef holding the line and the general manager making the final call on a Friday night. If your purpose doesn't reach and resonate with them, if they can't take that statement and use it to make a decision when the kitchen is in the weeds, it's an expensive nothing burger. Archetype patron fit is what determines if your purpose is true, but clarity in the middle ranks is what determines if it works. Every test I'm about to give you is designed to strip away the fluff so you are left with a tool your operators can actually use. So here are 4 tests that you can use to evaluate purpose statements. Test number 1, I've already demonstrated. It's the opposite test. Try stating the opposite of the purpose. If no serious operator or brand leader would ever claim that opposite, then you have a category description instead of a real purpose. Quote, bringing people together over great food. This fails because the opposite is absurd, rendering the statement professionally dead on arrival. Compare that to Southwest Airlines, whose decade-long purpose is to be the cheapest airline in the sky. Work specifically because the opposite, being a premium price carrier, is a legitimate strategy that other airlines actively pursue. And that friction is what makes the purpose feel alive and valuable. Southwest Airlines intentionally chose to be the cheapest in the sky, and because the opposite is a real strategy, that purpose works. It isn't about being noble, it's about making a choice. The second test is the verb test. An archetype supplies a verb, the action that aligns with its psychological motivation. Whether it's a hero who seeks to strengthen, a caregiver who aims to protect, or an explorer who lives to experience the new and find fulfillment. These archetypes provide actual behaviors that move your purpose beyond mere poetry and into the realm of operational reality. Swap your verb for one from a different archetype. If the sentence still works, your purpose is floating. Better played it better. Hotel Indigo's purpose is to illuminate the stories of neighborhood they inhabit. That's an explorer brand. Now, if you were to swap in a sovereign verb, maybe like to uphold the stories of neighborhoods we inhabit, it breaks. It sounds like a preservation society. Maybe if you swap in a caregiver verb, it sounds something like to protect the stories of the neighborhoods we inhabit. It also breaks, and now they sound like a museum. The verb is load-bearing. That's how you know the archetype is actually in there and doing its job. The third test is the tension test. Your patron is a human living in a psychological gap. So name the tension in one sentence, in their words, before you write anything. Not busy professionals age 28 to 45. More like something like around, I got home at 7:40, I'm cooking with what's left, and I'm tired of feeling like I cut corners on my kids. Because that tension has a literal timestamp. It becomes a real, visceral moment in time that your purpose can actually grab onto and solve. If you can't say the tension out loud without using a marketing word, you haven't done the patron work yet, and no amount of wordsmithing will cover it. The fourth test is the shift test. Ultimately, decision content is the only real measure of clarity. Imagine the chaos of a Friday night where a server has just comped a high top without asking. A regular is demanding a modification the kitchen notoriously hates, and a vendor has delivered the wrong product, forcing you to either serve an inferior ingredient or 86 signature dish entirely. Take your statement to a 26-year-old GM on a Friday night. A server comped a table. A regular wants a vendor sent the wrong product. Can the GM use your purpose to decide? If not, the purpose is failing. So here's how we could metaphorically build one, or at least imagine building a purpose statement that works. So let's assemble it, kind of watch how this joins together, hypothetically speaking. Here we go. It's a fast casual rotisserie chicken with 4 units in suburban Midwest. The owner's first draft is to bring families back to the dinner table, which is nice, and which 40 other brands could say tonight. We start with the tension. While a generic draft like bringing families back to the dinner table feels safe, the real human tension here is a parent feeding their family at 7:40 p.m. and desperately wanting to avoid the guilt of feeling like they chose the sad option. Identifying that guilt immediately points us towards the caregiver quadrant rather than the jester or explorer, leading us to select relieve as our load-bearing verb. To relieve parents of the guilt of the weeknight dinner. This passes the test because the opposite, adding guilt, is what competitors accidentally do. The verb is locked in, and that creates real clarity. So here's the verb test. Swap in an explorer verb to reveal parents to the guilt of the weeknight dinner. It's nonsense. Relieving guilt changes the operation. The upsell script at 6 p.m., kill it. It adds guilt. Portions for families of 4, fix them. Hold times for chicken, that's a brand standard now. Serving dry bird produces guilt. The GM enforces it. Drafts are fine for decks, but a real purpose changes the register script inside of a month. You have to carve away the fluff. So, how you know it's working? Stop asking patrons if purpose matters. They will lie. The intention-action gap is a real hurdle. While 65% of people say they want purpose, only 26% actually buy it. Research decks may lie, but P&Ls don't. Measure 3 other things instead. Survey your GMs. Ask for the purpose from memory. Ask for one decision it drove. If they can't answer, the purpose isn't real. With patrons, test unaided association. Don't ask if they like your purpose. Ask what your brand is for, in their own words, and count how often the archetype's verb or its cousins come back. That's connectivity you can actually observe. Look at repeat rate and price tolerance. Self-congruity shows up in loyalty. If your numbers show trial but not retention, you're measuring a promotion, not a brand. And then one more piece of evidence worth knowing because it explains why this compounds. Alexander Chernev and Sean Blair published a study in the Journal of Consumer Research in 2015 on what they called the benevolent halo. When people believed a company was acting out of genuine benevolence, they rated its products as performing better. Not liked the company more, thought the product was better. And the effect disappeared when people believed the company was doing it for its own benefit. That's an interesting takeaway. A coherent purpose can actually make your food taste better, whereas marketing theater only costs you money. So let's wrap this up. Essentially, we covered a lot, but I think there are great takeaways here. You have to grab your purpose statement tonight. The one in the deck or on the wall. When you run your current statement through these 4 tests of the opposite, the verb, the tension, and the shift, you will almost certainly find that it fails to provide the clarity required to survive a Friday night rush. Rewrite it. Take it to your GMs before you ever send it to a designer. If it can't survive a Friday rush, it won't survive a market, so sharpen it. Make it more impactful. Find that tension that you're solving and bring it out of the dark and get it into the basis of your purpose statement. And find the way it connects with an archetypal driver to ensure that it actually has the power and impact you need. As always, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I would love to hear even counterintuitive thoughts or thoughts that of disagreement. I encourage it fully and would love to read them and see them. Until next time, keep charging ahead. Cheers.